What is the role of music in our community? When I was 4 years old, a piano showed up at my house, and my father had got his first Christmas bonus. My mother had convinced him to spend it on buying a piano, even though they were broke. And I begged for lessons, but they said, you have to wait till you're 5. So when I was 5, on my 5th birthday, they gave me piano lessons. I know it doesn't sound like a great present, but that's what I wanted. And I was just hooked on the piano. So for most of my life, I was concerned with what music meant to me, and how to hone my craft and be the best musician I could be. I've had some really amazing moments on stage, connecting with my band members and with an audience, and I've been very fortunate. As my career progressed, I was fortunate to meet a lot of great artistic minds in this business and in relatable fields. One of these people was Bob Masteller, who was the founder of the Jazz Corner down here on Hilton Head. When I met Bob, we hit it off immediately because we both love jazz music, we both love jazz history, and we like to talk business and conceptual ideas about business. I got to know how his mind worked. He had an amazing mind. He was a true visionary. He usually began all his endeavors with a dream, and I call that a dream because it was something that seemed impossible to most of us. Then he would utilize the talent he had assembled to creatively figure out how to accomplish each step necessary. He was never afraid to fail or adjust midstream, and he always maintained focus on the goal, which importantly was usually something that benefited many and was philanthropic in nature. It was because of this he fueled passion in those that worked with him. He always had a higher purpose. It was from Bob I started to see the effect music can directly have on a community. Did you know the economic impact of music on Hilton Head runs into the area of $10 million on our little economy? There are roughly 70 full-time musicians working in this area. That's more than Savannah or Charleston. A recent town study estimated that 220 full-time jobs are created as offshoots of musical impact. Here we can see the economic impact of just the 6 largest arts organizations on our local economy, and it runs into the tens of millions of dollars. Did you know there are numerous musical outreach programs in just our area that are changing lives young and old through education and entertaining? So how does the music of our island reflect our community? Well, first of all, we have everything from Gullah-inspired choirs, like the Hallelujah Singers with Marlena Smalls, singing for presidents, to Greg Russell going 40 years strong down at the Liberty Oak, to bands like Cranford Hollow, touring the country representing their own vision of the low country sound. We have consummate entertainers like Reggie Dees, whom I work with, traveling the country as an institutional act. We've cultivated artists that have sold millions of records like Edwin McCain, and Grammy winners like Angie Aparo. We have one of the most renowned jazz venues in the entire world in the Jazz Corner. That's an amazing feat. You need a band to play New Orleans music? We have that. A world-class R&B band? We have it. A big band? We have that too. A reggae band? A rap producer? We got it. A symphony orchestra? We have an amazing symphony. We should all cherish and be proud of that. All these entities add up to our collective song as a community. This is our melody, and I promise you people are listening. I hear from visitors all the time that one of the reasons they come to Hilton Head time and time again is to go to the Jazz Corner, go to the Fusky and see Cranford and his band out there, or watch the International Piano Competition, which we're so fortunate to have here. I hear it all the time. We need to honor and embrace our artistic identity and the potential it offers us. We're not just a golf, beach, and tennis destination anymore. We have much more to offer, and our vision must be much larger. It's time for us to focus and grow into a cultural destination as well. I'm convinced our prosperity depends upon it. And just like the vision Bob Masteller had of making a world-class jazz venue here on Hilton Head, and when I first met him, he told me about it, and I thought he was crazy. But the commitment necessary, it will seem controversial, and it will be risky in this political climate. But done successfully, the payoff economically, socially, and culturally would be dramatic. For example, an ancillary byproduct of something like the Jazz Corner is the Junior Jazz Foundation, of which I'm a board member. As a nonprofit with no paid staff, within the past year, we provided over $25,000 in grants and scholarships to local schools, not even including our subsidization of one of the island's finest arts programs, the Hilton Head Jazz Camp, where we have students from all over the country come and study our national community's first musical voice, jazz music. We started the camp 8 years ago with 9 students, and this past year we had over 100 kids from 11 different states here on the island studying jazz with some of the best educators and some of the best jazz musicians in the world. Nearly half the attendees were provided scholarships from the Junior Jazz Foundation. The kids love it, and this year, because of the incredible support of our community, we were able to add college scholarships to the camp attendees. The Junior Jazz All-Stars are a group of camp kids that live here locally and perform here representing the program and are the pride of Hilton Head and the Low Country. They're a group of phenoms that have been given the resources to rise to new heights. They're an example of the program working. The standards are being raised and the schools are learning they can count on us to help improve their music programs. This is an example of the value of music. We are working to make sure our community's song continues and standards remain high. The fruition of this vision for me personally, in addition to the educational aspect of the Hilton Head Jazz, is the Hilton Head Jazz for All Ages Jazz Festival. By partnering with the Sonesta Resort, our sponsors have been able to provide a venue for performers and a place to stay while the festival is held. Ultimately, we're trying to add another yearly attraction to the island. This year, we celebrated the music of New Orleans the first night with the Living Legends of New Orleans, accompanied by the island's own Chris Torkowski on piano, one of the finest traditional jazz pianists in the world today, who started out as a young kid right here on Hilton Head, sitting in at the Jazz Corner. The second night of the festival was postponed due to Hurricane Irma and will be held November 13th, featuring Joe Granson and multi-Grammy winner Carmen Bradford. I urge you all to make the effort to go out and find music. We have this amazing resource that is still largely underutilized as part of our island's identity. Insist that the rebranding of the island prevalently include the arts. Cultural tourism represents a huge untapped source of revenue for the future of our area. These resources are already in place. We simply need to foster them and promote them. It won't just lead to more expenditures for the average visitor, but cultural tourism has been shown to attract a broad demographic of young and old, international and national, in study after study. Additionally, through expanding our arts, culture, and history, we will continue to attract year-round residents well into the future. Golf, beach, and tennis are wonderful, but it just won't be enough. We must grow and expand our offerings to keep attracting people and all kinds of investment to the island. Now, many of you might never have been to the symphony shows or the Jazz Corner or even the Tiki Hut or the community concerts held for free right across the street here. Go. You'll realize what an amazing arts and historical community we have. We're an exception and a special place in these regards. We need to develop these resources further, and there's plenty of area for growth in these areas. Now, earlier I was naming many of the types of music you can find on the island. I left out a couple of things, which are bluegrass, kid shows, and 80s rock. Many of you out there might know Jevin Daly and Gary Pratt from Low Country Boyle Bluegrass Band. And also, their alter ego, Silicone Sister. I'm sure some of you don't want to admit to it, but you've seen them. And this is Joe Vickers from Unicorn Meat and formerly of Trophy Wife and about 1 million bands. And Joe plays about 10 different instruments. And it's rare that you can go to some place like the Tiki Hut in another town and watch somebody sit there and play sitar, which is something you can see with Joe. I didn't have him bring that today, so I'm going to finish things off by asking them to perform a song that Jevin and Gary wrote, and they play with Low Country Boyle. And this is a song that they wrote about the Low Country. It's called Pollen. Thank you for listening, and remember to go out and catch some music.
Thanks, Martin. Got a lump stuck in my throat. We've all been in the same boat. Is it love in the air or is it pollen? Flowers making my nose runny. Butterflies invade my tummy. Is it love in the air or is it pollen? Ragweed, willow, poison ivy, Venus, Cupid, Aphrodite. Is it love in the air or is it pollen? Symptoms differ oh so slightly, though I'm dreaming of you nightly. Is it love in the air or is it pollen? Oh, I hard to see the reasons that I cry? Oh, the southern spring, the mysteries you bring. Every year I'm hollering. Is it love in the air or is it pollen? Quench this hankering I must, sprinkled with some magic dust. Is it love in the air or is it pollen? You're my afternoon delight, like a dandelion in flight. Is it love in the air or is it pollen? Fondness, fervor, adoration, prickle, tickle, irritation. Is it love in the air or is it pollen? Burns me like a little flame, hoping that you feel the same. Is it love in the air or is it pollen? Oh, I. Is it hard to see the reasons that I cried? Oh, the southern spring, the mysteries you bring. Every year I'm hollering. Is it love in the air or is it pollen? Dander flying off the sheep as I wheeze myself to sleep. Is it love in the air that I've forgotten? Now my eyes well up with tears, been so rash throughout the years. Is it love in the air or is it pollen? Martin Lesch on keyboard right there.
Martin Lesch.